I'd like to teach you how to line up reflections in this little clip, because we've been to a show in Exeter recently, and the number of new crafters out there who were like, how do I get the colour, was just amazing. So I just want to go over this again for you. So on the USB, you will have what we call reflections artwork, and this is artwork that we've designed and then had digitally coloured, which is great. So we either design the artwork ourselves or we buy the correct commercial license from a big bank of artwork that supports artists all around the world, which I think is a wonderful thing, because people deserve to see their artwork, used, which I think is great. And then what we do is we put this rectangle around it, okay? And this is the key. This rectangle is what makes it work. These will be on your USB and you will print them off on your home printer, and please, please, please print them at either actual size or 100%, because don't do fit to page because it will change the size of the reflection. You can still make it work, but as a rule of thumb, actual size or 100%. It tells you at the bottom the name of the USB, so Cardmaker's Compendium Volume 1. It tells you the title, so Elegant and Ornate Florals, and it also tells you the name of the file, which is Berries. So I tend to print mine on a 140 pure print, and I like 140 because it's a lightweight, especially if I'm going to be building things up. I don't want them too bulky. And because unlike a die, a scan and cut has a straight cut, you will see the white edge more. So the thinner the paper, round about a 140 is perfect for this. So I've gone ahead and printed this off. Now you can put this anywhere on your mat, just make sure it's straight, because the one thing you don't want to have to do is start rotating your cutting file. So once I've printed it off, I then pop my USB into the side of my scan and cut. It doesn't matter which model you own, they work on all of them. We make sure that the path count stays within the parameters of the CM600 and the CM300, so anybody can use them. So to retrieve this, I go to Retrieve Data, I go into the USB, and that will open up this. Now ignore all these, this is me playing around. We're going to go into the USB, and we're going to go to our Florals section, and we're going to go to our Berries, and we're going to wait for that to open up that cutting file. So it's now finding that file, reading it, and then it will bring it up on your screen. It will take a few seconds to do it because it's looking at it and making sure it can open it, because it doesn't know that we've checked them all. So it's just making sure that it is open. Now, if you wanted to put this in the bin and change your mind, don't do it on this screen because it could take it off the USB. Now our USBs we tend to lock, but just if you've saved something onto a USB, a different USB, if you put it in the bin here, it will remove it from your USB permanently. You've then got your magnifying glass, and you've also got an OK button, and all we're going to do is press OK and put it on what I call a workable mat, so where we can start to edit that file. So the first thing I want to do is group everything together because I'm going to need to move it. So we go to Edit, and this one actually is already grouped, so I've already gone in and done that bit. What you would do is go multiple select, everything on the mat, press OK, and then group it together. But this particular one has already been grouped. So when we come to do the next reflection, I'll show you properly how to do that. But for now, what I'm going to do is scan this in. Now, imagine having this with a different cutting machine to a scan and cut, where the cutting file, this file that's on my scan and cut screen now that you've just seen, is on your computer screen, and this is on your mat. It's quite tricky to line it up. You have to almost make a template for this to sit inside of so that you know where it cuts. Whereas on a scan and cut, we can scan it in. And that for me is one of the big reasons why you would want to treat yourself to one of these machines if you haven't already got one. Because what we're going to do now is scan this in. And when we think about the other things that Brother do, they do printers and they do scanners, and they've done them for a long time, so they know what they're doing. So I'm going to press OK now, and I'm going to scan from here. So not from the main screen, but from this screen here. And then I'm just going to press Start, and it's going to scan it in. And what it's not scanning it in so that it can see it and it can cut around the outside edge, because we always put a bleed line around our artwork. And we do that because if you don't get it quite lined up perfectly, it doesn't matter, because then you don't see the white edge around it. So a bleed is just the extension of an ink. It's what a professional printers use. So to make this lighter, because I can see that artwork really clearly, but I can't really see the cutting file, I'm going to go to my little spanner here, and I'm going to go to the background, and I'm going to click the button on the right, which makes the background lighter. So now I can see the artwork and the cutting file. I'm then going to go to edit, and I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to ask you to zoom in to 400%. So we're going really close. And then all you're going to do is drag that cutting file so that it lines up over that black rectangle. So the red rectangle is lining up over the black rectangle. And then you can use your arrows just to nudge that into place. So you can see now, if I press OK, that cutting file is lined up perfectly over that reflection. So the next thing that I do, and I'm going to tell you why I do this, is I go to Object, Edit and Ungroup it, but I can't do it with this. I'm going to show you on the next one. I don't know why this file is already grouped. It must have been saved like that, but it's not a problem because we can do it when we do the resizing. So this one, you would then just press Cut and it will cut it out for you, and you're left with all these amazing berries that you can then use in your projects, which is great. Okay, so let me unload this, and then I can show you on a smaller one, because I get asked quite a lot, how do I resize my reflections? And there's a couple of ways that you can do it. So I'm going to go through both for you. Let me just pop that to one side and get that out of the way. So the way I did this one was I went into the poppies, and when it came to my print settings, when I sent it to print, it asked me how many copies I wanted on one sheet. And the printer was set at A4. So I asked it to do 4. So it's given me 4 panels of that poppy on one sheet. So that's brilliant, because now I can see it. I know that this is kind of the size that I want if I'm making the smaller cards, the 6x6 or the A6 ones. So I know that I can still use my reflections for that. The other way you can do it is when you go to your print settings, you can change the percentage, the size as a percentage. So you could have it at 75% or 50%, or depending on your printer, you could have it at 200%. It depends on your printer and how big that is. But it's a really cool way of changing that reflection up. So I'm just going to burnish this down with my scraper. If you haven't got one of these, please visit highlightcrafts.com. because this is absolutely brilliant. It's great not only for burnishing down, but it's also good for cleaning your mat. So we're going to burnish this down. And just so that you know, if you register on highlightcrafts.com, we do a free scan and cut class every month. And we do an hour in the evening for CM users. And then we do the same thing for SDX users. So please feel free to come and join us. The other good thing is we usually get a code with the discount off the website. I didn't tell you that. It's exciting. Right, so the way we're going to do this one, we're going to do exactly what we did before. We're going to retrieve data from the USB. We're going to go into our Cardmaker's Compendium Volume 1. We're going to go into our florals, and we want poppies this time. Now, we also always put them on in alphabetical order, so they're easy for you to find. And there is my cutting file. So I'm going to press OK. And I'm going to group this together. So we're going to edit, and we're going to multiple select everything that's on the mat because we want all the parts. We're going to press OK. We're going to go back into Object, Edit, and we're going to group. And you do the same thing on a CM machine. It's just a slightly shorter process, so there's less buttons to press. But if you're working on a CM, you will know by now how to group something. It's just a little bit more extended on here. So the next thing I need to do is find out how big this reflection is, each one of these panels. So I'm going to measure it just with a ruler, and I'm going to do it at 120 millimeters high. I don't need to worry about the width because it will scale in the correct ratio anyway. So I'm going to go to resize. I'm going to flip from inches to millimeters, and then I'm going to make that 120 high. Okay, so we've now got our 120. So I'm now going to scan this in. Now I know we've got 4, I'm going to show you how to do 2 of them, and then you'll be able to absolutely go ahead and do that. But this is a nice way of doing it, because if you think, you know, this is an A4, so this will, but you know, your card sizes are kind of relevant to this. So I'm going to press OK, and I'm going to scan it in. So I'm going to scan and start. We're going to make sure that this 1 is the perfect size first before we start to duplicate it. So get 1 correct and then do the extra bit after that. And just listen how quiet this machine is. It really is super, super, super quiet. When we went to Exeter at the weekend, a lot of people were saying, oh, mine's much noisier than that. But if you've always worked on a CM and you've never heard an SDX, you don't know the difference. So you don't need to upgrade just for that. You might want to, you don't need to. So I'm going to go into Edit, and I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to zoom in to 400%. And now I'm going to drag this, and I'm actually going to use it on this one here because I can see this rectangle a little bit clearer here. So I'm going to just zoom this across, move the screen across like this, and then I'm just going to line this up to the top. Now you'll notice that it doesn't line up perfectly, and that's because at the bottom of this sheet it says reversed poppies. Okay, so it's not the right way around, because when we do reflections, we give them to you in one direction and then we reverse it. So if you wanted poppies facing each other, if you want to make a wreath and you want it to be symmetrical, you've got the poppy facing that way and the poppy facing that way, because again, as a crafter, that's what I needed to be able to do my projects. So we've given it to you. So if I just press OK now, and I go to Object Edit, and I flip that using this mirror button, and then I go back in and I zoom in again, and this time I'm just going to zoom into 200%. I can now see that I need to drop that down a little bit further. So you can see this bottom line looks a bit thicker. So if I drop that down now, those lines, that box around there, all the line width looks even. That's what you want. So now I'm happy that I've got that. I can duplicate that. So I can press OK, go to Object Edit, go into my Duplicate button and ask it to do 2 and press OK. So now I've got another one that I can then line up here as well. So again, if I zoom in, and I'm just going to zoom into 200 because I can see now that that needs to drop down a little bit, and it also needs to come over a little bit. So now I've got 2. Actually, it needs to go over there a little bit. And don't stress about getting it perfect first time. Now I can see that those 2 are going to come. Because of that bleed, it gives you a little amount of room for error, which we all like. I like a little bit of room for error. That's why I always buy a pair of jeans that are a little bit bigger. So when I make a mistake of eating all the chocolate, it doesn't matter. So now I want to show you this, because what if you just want to cut out these 2 poppies here? So the way you would do that is, first of all, you would get rid of that one. And we just want these 2. Now, to be able to isolate just a couple of poppies, or a single poppy, or 4 poppies, to be able to change it from cutting all of them, you must ungroup it first. So you ungroup it and you tap the screen. Now, I'm going to highlight one of the ones that I want to keep down there so that you know where I'm working. The way that I do this is I go into my settings here and I change my cut area, and I drag my arrows over here like this. And because I haven't got a cutting file over these, I don't need to worry about that because there's nothing there for it to find. Because we didn't scan it in for it to find it and cut it out, we scanned it in for it to see it. It's going to ignore these anyway because it hasn't been asked to find them, if you like. So now when I press OK, it's just when I get to cut, so we'll keep going until I get to please select. So I go to please select and cut. It tells me that there is a pattern outside of the effective area. The pattern cannot be cut or drawn, but this bit here is important because it asks you if you're okay to continue. And when you say okay, it processes that information, and now it would just go and cut those 2 poppies out. But because we ungrouped it and we changed our cut area, it also means that you've kept that rectangle intact for when you want to come back and line it up to cut the rest of them out. So that's a super cool way of isolating. And also that's a really good thing if you've got lots of mats and layers on or lots of parts of a project on one mat, rather than saving them all and then having to bring them in one at a time and delete off the ones that you don't want. You can just kind of grey them out so it can't see them. As soon as it can't see them, it ignores them because it doesn't know they're there. So that's a really great way of isolating certain areas within your reflection sheets if you want to keep these nice and neat and tidy, rather than cutting everything out and having to store all the bits, whichever way works for you. So that's my little education on cutting out reflections. And next, I'm going to take you into Canvas Workspace. If you want to see more from Highlight Crafts, make sure you click the like button. Subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below and click the bell icon to receive notifications of all our future content. You can also click here to see our latest video, or click here to see more videos like this one.